This is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Scoop News. The shitstorm, guys. Now I've heard it all. I think I finally deduced why they never tested for the outflows outside of the DOH doing it every few days. Is they didn't want people to know how bad the water is flowing out of there. And the DOH doesn't test the outflows, they test the water quality. Because to test it would mean that the information would get out there, which is bad for tourism, bad for new residents, bad all around. Now get this. I'm sort of amazed by this one, and I shouldn't be. As we all know, The Scoop was one of the first news outlets out there to tell everyone, hey, 13 out of, 15, 16 beaches that the DOH checks are closed. They gave us the notice 2 days after the fact that they found out they were closed. Meanwhile, people are surfing in the waters, and guess what? They still are going in and surfing because they're closed, but they're not closed, and I'll touch on that in a second. Basically, this enterococcus bacteria, which is human feces, animal feces, fertilizer, everything that flows from the septic tanks during flooding, flows from the yards, flows down the street, all that stuff. Even that shit that the county was putting down the manhole that later on another video showed it flowing down the runoff drain into the runoff spigot that goes into the Gulf that the city never addressed when I asked them what that was all about. That stuff. All right, so all these beaches are closed. Now get this. The DOH director, Tom Higginbotham, he said, yeah, we took the samples on Monday. They showed elevated levels. We let you guys know on Wednesday. And it may not be safe, as we know, if you have an immune compromise or if you have cuts on your body, you don't want to go in the water, you don't want to risk an infection. And he said it's all because of high surf. Which we sort of thought, high surf. And in the morning, the surf was small. On Tuesday, I think it was. I didn't smell anything on Tuesday afternoon. It smelled like a shitstorm. I felt like I was sitting in a pile of shit. I'm aboard. And he said, this is what's amazing. That you got a picture up there of kids in the sand. And it's up there for a reason. They say because when you have that kind of churn, when you turn up the sand like that the sand is will cause a naturally occurring bacteria. Naturally occurring. He had to throw that in there. And we all know why. There's nothing naturally occurring about the bacteria that causes this bacteria, I can't even pronounce it, enterococcus. But he calls it a naturally occurring bacteria that once it gets in the water from the sand and it makes this contact, you get this high levels of bacteria. People, we're not stupid, naturally occurring bacteria. Basically, the sand is all freaking contaminated. And it's obvious. I mean, if the water's getting contaminated from these outflows, then obviously the sand is. And what this guy is saying is that it's naturally occurring because magically when the sand hits the water, boom, you get the bacteria. No. The contaminated sand gets mixed in the water. You get higher levels. You get increased bacteria. You get closed beaches. You get beaches that smell like shit. And I come to find out that a lot of people smelled it. And it wasn't just the people in the water. Oddly enough, this guy also said that the beaches are still open. And you just need to be careful. So you got this high contamination level there. And we're not going to close the beaches. Even though we're saying they're closed, we're still going to allow people to go in there. That's what's weird. They have these advisory flags that are flying out there saying no swimming, beaches closed, but they're not going to stop people in there. Basically, this guy said the beaches are still open, but we want you to be careful not to step on something and not to cut yourself because if you get in the water, you're going to be contaminated. They're going to retest the waters today if the surf is down, which I think it should be. But this should amaze you. So now what? We finally got places like the city of Venice. They're going to test the pollution level after a lot of pressure. They're trying to get the money to do it. All right, they're trying to do it through a grant. We got the state that's going to start testing for red tide toxins. A little too late because most of it's offshore now. It's better than ever. Hopefully they'll continue testing, but most of the time they don't. Then now the sand. The contaminated sand. I guess we all knew it. Pure logic, common sense. If you got all this pollution flowing from these outflows, the sand's going to get contaminated. But it amazes me that this guy, this director, this Higginbotham, called it the naturally occurring bacteria in the sand. What say you guys? Is it naturally occurring, or are you calling bullshit like I am? Are your kids still playing in the sand like this? Maybe they shouldn't if they're in Sarasota County and other counties. And I shouldn't just say Sarasota, because this isn't restricted to just Sarasota County. This is an issue throughout Southwest Florida, where we have the Southwest Florida Water Management putting these outflow pipes everywhere, contaminating the waters. That contamination is what agitated red tide and made it even worse, along with the algae from Okeechobee. So this should concern everybody. Doubt it'll get much attention. I watched the Adsense interview, and I'll put it on my page if you want, down at the bottom. The reporter didn't question him, didn't push him, saying naturally occurring bacteria in the sand. What do you mean naturally occurring? It's not from the outflows. And if it's naturally occurring, how come it doesn't happen all the time? Please, Tom, we're not idiots. We weren't born yesterday. No, we weren't. All right, everybody, what say you? Thoughts? This has been Francesco Abbruzzino with The Scoop.